It is finally official. Montreal has been locked into the fifth best odds at the number one overall pick, and some mock drafts are changing left and right. But one mock draft that we're going to bring up today has Montreal picking a guy that I don't think any of us would have expected. We got to get into that, plus the incredible performances of Filip Mesar and Owen Beck as the OHL playoffs continue to roll. All of that coming up on this episode of Habs Digest, and we're just going to get straight into it, Jesse. We're going to talk first about Owen Beck and Filip Mesar. Now, their series are certainly not going, they're not going the same. Owen Beck currently is tied 2-2 with his Saginaw Spirit versus the Sioux Greyhounds, while the Kitchener Rangers and Filip Mesar are down 3-0 to the London Knights. But I wanted to start with Owen Beck. Owen Beck has 10 points in 8 games, leading his team. Of course, he had 8 goals, 8 assists in 22 playoff games last year. He already has the 8 assists in just 8 games this year, over a point per game pace. Now, he's not really at the top of the OHL right now for playoff scoring, but with him, Jesse, Owen Beck's game goes further than just scoring. Owen Beck's game is faceoffs, it's defense. He plays center. He's a bigger body, and he's really leading his team. I've been very impressed with his performance, and I think we're going to be a little bit shocked at just how impactful he looks in Laval next season.
Absolutely. And his two-way play is a big reason for his success, but also for his teams, right? He's one of the major, if not the major player on that team, right? So obviously he's able to contribute in all these ways, and we're seeing it right now. Obviously, hockey is a team sport, but when you're playing the center position like Owen Beck, you have a lot of responsibility on the ice, and you can really affect the game in a big way. So amazing to see that he is getting his production while still knowing that two-way game that we know and trust from him. So yeah, absolutely. I think that Laval, just like with Filip Mesar, though, will be the big test for these players.
That's a great point. Now, of course, Owen Beck playing with Zane Parekh, one of the top prospects in this draft, and Beck's been out producing him, just saying. Anyway, is what it is. Parekh's still going to be amazing. But yeah, you're very right. I think that next step is going to be the big test because, you often don't really want to have to send your 20-year-old, well, I guess he was 19 at the time, back to the OHL to see what they can do at 20. Ideally, you're kind of like, hey, you're done by 19, but that's only for the top tier prospects. That's not the case for everyone. Lots of people at the age of 19 and 20 still playing the OHL. But let's move on to Filip Mesar, who is a little bit older than Owen Beck, not by much, by about a month. And he has been on a tear, but not a goal-scoring tear, which is kind of what we might have expected from him. He has 1 goal only, which is maybe disappointing. I don't know. Can it be if you have 14 assists, with a lot of them being primary, Jesse? Filip Mesar is tied for the OHL lead in points in the playoffs. Him and one other player, I forget the other player's name, both have 15 points in 9 games. Now, I'm seeing people say, oh, well, Filip Mesar looks boring. He doesn't really stand out when I watch. And I feel like that's almost undeserved hate. Like, yeah, maybe you wish he had more goals, but when you're producing those numbers, if you can produce those numbers while not being that flashy, that in of itself is a bit of a skill. And, just the fact that he is producing at this level in games that matter, he's trying to will his team back into the series. They're down 3-0. I think that's going to translate well to Laval next year, where maybe he's not going to be able to get his shot off as much as he did in the OHL. Having this level of playmaking, I think, might even be quite beneficial for him.
Yeah, Filip, the setup guy, Mesar, right?
Yes.
And that's what it is. He's a playmaker, and that's what he's doing. He's making plays out there, which is amazing to see. Pretty good production, through those 9 games, all the same. Those 14 points, right? So what you have to feel from him is just really, just how's it going to translate to the next level? I think, though, it's still fair to say kind of for him. And even though he's producing right at the top of the OHL, which is amazing to see, it's almost what, we're expecting. A lot of people are still saying, oh, because it's his draft, plus 2 year, we want to see a little bit more. I think it's just for Montreal, we're kind of getting spoiled a little bit, right? But I don't think that we should underestimate. We still want to see a little bit more. Maybe it would have been nice if he could have played with Laval this year. He needed a little bit more time. I like that we're being patient. But again, Laval's going to be really where we get to see his game and really get a better feel. Okay, is he an NHL player? And if so, where is he really going to stack up there? And that's what's really I'm looking forward to seeing next year with Laval, is just how he fares.
Hey, the Habs have really high hopes for him, so we wish the best, but it's just awesome how much these guys are dominating. But on the other side of domination is, well, it's losing, and that's just what the Habs did quite a lot this year, though maybe, they had fewer wins this year than last year, but they had more points. But it's finally time. It's finally time to get into the draft talk. Well, we've already been doing it, but now we know for sure Montreal is locked in to that 5th best odds at number 1, with Arizona getting a win in their final ever game as the Arizona Coyotes. So, hey, well, the sale was made official today. Hearts out to any Arizona Coyotes fans, but we're going to focus on Montreal. If you take a look here, Montreal has a combined 17.1% chance at getting a top 2 pick. Realistically, 5th or 6th almost certainly is going to happen. I think it's like, 68.5% chance at landing 5th or 6th. But it is what it is. Still very, very good that Montreal was ended up below Arizona and Ottawa. But there's some other stuff I wanted to show you, and that's some mock drafts. And this one comes from Bleacher Report. This one has the Habs taking Sam Dickinson, Jesse. Now, this is very interesting because Sam Dickinson is a power shot, 6'3", left-handed defenseman for the London Knights. This also has Cayden, Lindstrom, Demidov, and Celebrini all going in the top 4, so none of them would fall to Montreal. I know we talk a lot about Kent Hughes maybe trading a pick if a defenseman's available, and he has said that himself. Do you think there's any world where maybe he actually does take a defenseman? Like, let's say Sam Dickinson is on the top of their draft board. Is there a world where the scouting staff just says, like, hey, this guy is good. Like, I think he's going to be good no matter what. If we will need to get rid of him in the future, we trade him. Do you think there's any world where that happens?
No, not this year. Just because,
Fair.
like, if Lane Hudson didn't kind of come in and then, I think a lot of people are already high on him to begin with. But then when he comes out and just plays so good these 2 games, we say, okay, this guy can really be an NHL guy. If you had any sort of inkling to maybe take an offensive sort of defenseman, which all these guys a little bit higher up, except for Sam Dickinson, often are, even though he can still definitely score goals, it's like, now that's just completely gone because you're seeing we got guys that can really do this, especially on the left side, right? And Ken's very aware of bringing people on, whether it's free agents, but also prospects that take the spots of the guys that they would want in the future. He's saying that's the reason why somehow we don't go for a free agent. It's like we feel like we have somebody in this organization that can maybe fill that 2C or maybe that 1C role. That's why we don't need to go out and get that. The same can be said, I think, for if we feel like we really got a solid 1 and 2 left-hand defenseman, maybe our top pairing, right D is already kind of set in Reinbacher. For me, it's just we're just stopping that development. It does make a good point though, Josh. Like you do make a good point that of course we could always trade that if we're having kind of that glut. But I think just right now as Montreal fans, if they pick another defenseman when we have so many prospects, especially on the left side, that Canadiens fans are just going to lose their cool.
I think they'll lose their cool too. But hey, I mean, I guess you never really know. But I definitely think it's more likely than not that Kent Hughes will trade that. But hey, Montreal could land anywhere. They could land number 1. They could land number 2. They could land 5 or 6. There's so many good prospects. But I will say, I asked the poll today. Most of you said that Montreal would pick either first or 5th in that poll. It was very interesting. A lot of optimistic fans. I guess we're sharing in the positivity. Just wanted to end this video off on one note, though. Yesterday, I did 1 click on the Tankathon, mock draft thing, draft lottery simulator. Montreal landed first. I did it again today. Just 1 click. Montreal landed first again, landing Macklin Celebrini. I'm not saying that this is a guarantee. I'm just saying that I'm 2 for 2, and I don't plan to do it ever again. I'm 2 for 2. If Montreal wins the draft lottery, you can come back here and give me my praises because I think it's going to happen. But even if it doesn't, Montreal has so many amazing opportunities ahead of them. Who do you want Montreal to pick? And let me know in the comments where you think they will pick in this upcoming draft. But for now, that's going to do it for this episode of Habs Digest. Leave us some comments down below about all the Habs prospects, all the Habs draft lotto news. We would love to hear from you. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.